Hey there, and welcome back. Today we have only two keywords, capoeira and beating bow. So as I told you in the welcome video, every week we're going to have a featured sport of the week, a sport that we spend a class period examining in a little bit more depth. And this week our featured sport of the week is capoeira. Capoeira, as you may or may not know, was invented in Brazil, and it's an interesting combination of a dance, a martial art, and a sport. It's something that's become quite popular worldwide. In cities around the world, maybe a city where you live or near you, there are capoeira studios and capoeira teachers, so you can go take a class in capoeira if you want. It's actually a discipline, a sport, capoeira, that if you get good at, really helps you with excellence in other sports because it teaches you balance and strength, and can be very useful as a kind of cross training. Capoeira has also become something of a global pop culture phenomenon. For example, there's an appearance by a capoeirista in a recent cheesy B-grade kung fu movie where the capoeirista shows off his fancy capoeira moves. Now today, to focus on capoeira, we're going to meet Katja Wesolowski. Katja Wesolowski is a professor at Duke University. She's an anthropologist. She's an expert at capoeira, teaches capoeira herself, but also as an anthropologist has done her research about capoeira. And we're going to have the chance today to hear a little bit more from her about studying capoeira and the role of capoeira in the world.
Main instrument in capoeira, although it was probably introduced after, a little later than the atabaque or drum. It's what dictates the game. It tells the capoeiristas how to move, what kind of game to play, whether to play fast or slow, to play a more, what we say in Portuguese, objetivo game, or more slightly aggressive game where you're trying to knock your partner down or show a move, or play a more playful game, whether to play a game that's more acrobatic, or a game, again, that has more straight kicks. So the capoeiristas have to be listening as well as seeing what their partner is doing in the roda, or the circle where capoeira is played. They also have to be listening to the berimbau to know what kind of game to play, and the other instruments have to be listening to the berimbau. The other instruments, the atabaque, the pandeiro, the agogo, take their cue from the berimbau. It's what controls the whole performance event of a roda. And it also accompanies the singing. The singing is also a very important part of capoeira. It's a call and response singing. So the person generally who's playing the lead berimbau, there's often 3 berimbaus, and the one on the gunga, which is the largest and the deepest sounding berimbau, will often be the person singing. And like the music, the lyrics of the songs can sometimes dictate what kind of game the capoeirista should be playing. The capoeirista should be playing, again, whether it should be more aggressive, more playful, or they might be commenting on what's happening in the roda. Or the lyrics might be talking about the history of capoeira, a famous master, or the life of the capoeiristas. So music is really, really essential in capoeira. There is no capoeira without music. There's a lot of mystery around the exact origins of capoeira, and that's one of the things that makes it such a beautiful art form and sport that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But it's generally believed that capoeira was created in Brazil several hundred years ago, sometime during the 18th century, maybe a little earlier, out of an amalgamation of different dance and martial traditions that had come with African slaves from the Angola region of southwestern Africa. But it was really created in the particular conditions of Brazil by slaves, ex-slaves, later on by poor European immigrants. Again, we're not sure if it was created in a rural or an urban environment. The first actual historical record we have of capoeira is from the 19th century, actually police records from Rio de Janeiro, because capoeira was seen as a social threat because it was played by black men, often guys who organized themselves into capoeira gangs or groups that were affiliated with certain neighborhoods. And they could be violent, they could sometimes rumble with each other, with other gangs, or get in disputes with the police. So it was seen, and things African in the 19th century were seen as dirty and not a good influence, not something that Brazilians wanted to aspire to. They wanted to be a European nation in the tropics, and so they tended to outlaw and look down on any kind of cultural manifestation that had African roots. Capoeira is a wonderful prism through which to see Brazil. It encapsulates a lot of what is Brazilian in terms of the way things operate, the way people operate in Brazil, the particular culture of Brazil. It's a reflection of the changing race relations in Brazil over the last several hundred years. As I was saying, in the 19th century, capoeira was seen as a social threat because it was something that came from the Africans. By the early 20th century, things in Brazil had changed dramatically in terms of the politics, racial politics. In the 1930s, when Brazil was really trying to consolidate as a nation and trying to distinguish themselves from other nations, particularly the United States that was experiencing increased racial tensions at this time, Brazil kind of presented itself as a racial democracy, as somewhere where the European, the indigenous, and the African races had all come together to form a particular Brazilian culture. And so suddenly, things that had been previously outlawed or seen as dirty, as a social threat, like capoeira, samba, the music and the dance, became celebrated as Brazilian national culture. And so capoeira suddenly came to be seen as very Brazilian. And so I think that it is most Brazilian in the way that it kind of encaptures some of these contradictions of Brazil. The one time very playful, yet also kind of an undercurrent of aggression, the complications of racial politics in Brazil. Until really the 1970s, there were essentially no women playing capoeira. It was a totally male-dominated sport and art form. Only men played. It also had kind of a macho ethos to it. A lot of the songs talk about male capoeiristas' conquests of women and beautiful women, or wives who are a pain in the neck. But in the 1970s, something shifted drastically in capoeira, and that was that it started going abroad. Capoeiristas from Brazil started going to Europe and the United States to perform in folkloric dance shows, because capoeira has this dance aspect of it. And some of these performers stayed abroad and started teaching. And in the United States and Europe, capoeira was divorced from the kind of social context in which it was created. So people didn't have an association of it being kind of a rough male activity that was done on the streets that could potentially be dangerous, violent. And so these Brazilian capoeiristas started teaching in dance studios and karate dojos, and they actually attracted a lot of women. And these women and these capoeiristas, Brazilian capoeiristas, started traveling back to Brazil, and there was a blowback. There were some women, pioneer women at this time in the 70s, starting to train capoeira, but very few who are rising through the ranks of the groups. Since then, and I think a large part because of some of the work that these Brazilian capoeiristas have been doing abroad, many more women are now playing capoeira. And the beauty of capoeira is that it takes a lot of different skills. It takes speed and strength and agility, but it also takes smarts. It's a game of strategy, and as well as physical prowess. And so I have actually seen, a 5-foot, 100-pound woman take down, female capoeirista take down a 200-pound, 6'10" male capoeirista. So it's in the timing, it's in the strategy. It's also a game of aesthetics. You want to be the better performer, right? There's no acknowledged winner in a capoeira game, but it is acknowledged when someone is playing the more beautiful, accomplished game. And a woman can do that just as well, and sometimes better than a man.